So, while things need to be working the way we want them to, let's go ahead and start talking about some of this new stuff. Now, in your treasure chest, your daily launch gift thing, you got your diodes. First thing you want to do is go to your enterprise thing here and pick up this mission, United Again, if you are level 40 plus and you can actually get it and do it. The reason I say that, Professor Waz, thank you very much for the follow, is because the first mission that you will get is not very hard to complete, and the reward for it is 1,000 uncommon credits as well as 500 Ex-borg credits. So whether you have enough to go ahead and get all the favors you want or not, picking these up is certainly going to get that ball rolling for you and get things started. Now, I looked through all of the new missions on the website. As Rev Deuce raids in with 454 Star Trek Fleet Command fans. Hi, everybody. Rev, thank you very much for the raid. You had a good stream going there for a little while, but I know you've been up pretty long, so hopefully you get some much-needed rest. And thank you for sending everybody my direction. We are just talking right now, just getting started here. And thank you guys all for the new follows. So, step one, go to your holodeck, get your mission, get United Again, part one. Not very complicated to complete. You're just going to go pop a couple of very low-level hostiles. You have to be Ops 40 for it. Now, the reason I say do this is because what we're going to get into in a minute when we start talking about the Xindi are all the favors that you're going to need. And, of course, anything you can do to get more credits is going to make yourself even better. Thank you to Shinzola, Asher, Olsey, Captain Flanagan, DJ Epic, Kev, Roe, Jackal, Fulman, Nom Nom, Ramscoop, Yang. Look at you guys just blowing my follower goal right out of the water for the month. Very much appreciate that. You'll probably see a link pop up here from Stream Elements in a few minutes to my YouTube channel. If you're not following me over there, we do have a promotion going on right now for the month of January, where any new followers I get during the entire month, I'll be doing 2 push-ups at the first stream I do in February. We did something similar over here on Twitch. Thank God none of you were all here then, because I already had to do 115 push-ups during a stream about a week ago. It was not fun, but we got through it. And we're going to try and do it again the first week of February. So just putting that out there to let you know about that. The camera angle is epic. Oh, yes. You get front and back views. All kinds of fun. But we're going to do this mission here. We're going to wrap this up real quick because we want to get those credits. And the reason we want to get those credits is because before you go try and do anything related to killing stuff in the Ex-borg faction and the new Xindi world, you need a couple of these favors. The first one that is unavoidable is this particle beam delay weapon. They have the kill shot. End of round 1, they blast you for a jillion health. So if you don't kill them before they get to fire that shot, you just die at the end of round 1. Getting level 1 of this pushes it back 2 rounds. So now it won't fire until the end of round 3. Now it won't fire again until the end of round 5. So that gives you a little bit of wiggle room to work with. But the third level here takes 1,090 of these new credits. By doing the away team mission, you can do, the holodeck mission, you get 1,000 of them. Which means all you have to do is be able to just get 1 turn in here. And even if you get the worst exchange rate and only get 170, that will be more than enough to give you the ability to get that going on. Should probably turn off those alerts again. What's the mission called again? It is United again. It is the level 40 faction mission. It is very easy to complete. Very easy to complete. Bam, I'm done already in the 3 minutes we were talking about it. You kill 2 3 million strength freebooters, you donate 27 million tritanium, and you're done. And just like that, I now have 1,000 credits of the new total. So all I need to do now is get enough Xindi scrap to be able to do a turn in here. That's easier said than done. We'll get to that in a second. Other favors. See, I haven't turned stream elements off, and it looks like it's still doing it, though. Because that was a lot. But thank you guys all so much for the follows. Sporting MP, Akala, Vader, Killywiggles, Searching for Answers, Trouble for Free, EU, Iowa Hawk, NetNiv, TK Max, Striker. Thank you guys all so much. Hi, Lube. Good evening. Yeah. So, these particular hostels, and the easiest way to see this, we're just going to go to the website. What do we have here? What crew is loaded up here? Oh, I was doing Axions. Yeah, I don't want to use that. That would not go well. Okay, so let's just pick one. We'll take the level 40, right? These are the new Xindi hostels. I'm just looking at the level 40 Explorer. And as you can see here, they have a lot of weapons. And the first 5 of them are all kinetic. Kinetic meaning Talon, not Chen, if you're trying to do damage reduction, or Kath. This big 6th weapon here, this is the one that kills you. This is the go-home weapon. This is the one that favor delays. So this is why you want to get that. By getting that favor up, we've now pushed it back, so this weapon will not fire until the very end of round 5. That gives you 5 rounds to kill the target before it kills you. They drop very small amounts. So you'll see a lot of people, whether if you're not using a damage mitigation crew, you'll see people using full loot crew. We're talking new Picard, new Data, 5 of 11, Doctor below decks, those kinds of things. There are also new favors that will also boost your loot output in here. Which one is that? Xindi escalation. Oh, right there. That is also a good one if you have some credits to invest in. Increases base dropped by targets. The more base loot you have, the more that they're dropping, the more your other guys can then multiply. You can get 2 levels out of that using your old credits. Gets you up to a nice 50% bonus, because the very basic hostels drop small amounts. The level 35 ones drop like 2. So if that's all you can kill, you're going to be there for a while. And what I need for a box pull is 95,000. Yikes. So we're going to have to kill something a little bigger than level 2s. All right. So let's start with... Let's take him off. Let's take him off. That's fine. Let's just dump that to something else for a second. Okay. Other things worth noting, as far as favors go, eventually, you're going to want to get critical damage floor. This is the big new one that they highlighted in the patch notes. Critical hit damage cannot be reduced by an enemy below a certain percentage. There are a number of hostile, actually all of the new hostiles, above, except for the level 35 basic entry level ones. All the ones in the 40 and up systems, they all have a debuff that basically subtracts 1,000% and therefore makes your critical hit damage 0. And since, unfortunately, the last 5 years we've been playing this game, Scopely's been preaching critical hit damage, critical hit damage, critical hit chance, boosting your crits. Everything we've done up to this point is now being used against us. So this is all not going to go well if you have anything related to critical hit chance or critical hit damage. Ignore all of it, and that includes Hue. Now, if you are a spender, you could buy credits, so you could get this critical hit damage boosted and fixed, which a lot of people have already done. There is also a Prime that you can buy for $99 that stacks with this. So if you had this leveled up to level 5, it would be 100%, meaning basically instead of doing 0 damage, your crit would just do normal damage. It would say critical, but it's not really critical. It's doing the same damage as your normal hits. If you have the floor favor all 5 levels and the extra 100% Prime, then your crits would do extra damage like they're supposed to, and then therefore you could go back to running Hue and whatever, critical boosts and hull breach and all the usual stuff we've been running for the last couple of years. Also convenient that now that Hue has less value, they are now making him more accessible. But, that kind of is how that works, right? The other things in here, there's a lot of other good favors. Obviously, things for boosting loot drop. There's also ones that boost efficiencies here. So you're going to want to get some of this stuff it's going to make your progression easier. Again, instead of just changing the economy the way they did when they released G5 and they went back and retroactively made changes to G4, instead what they've done is they put a bunch of favors in that will increase your efficiency, increase your ship parts, and all of this kind of stuff that you can then grind through the game to work out that will make your G4 and your G5 building upgrades and ship parts and things like that more efficient. They're just going to either make you potentially buy it, or you're just going to have to be more patient and or continue to be patient and work for it. So now, yes, Divine does point out that without Hue, you do still have a natural crit ability. It's 12% on your regular abilities. If you have the Prime for that, you add 10% more. So 22% of the time without this ability, this critical hit damage floor, 22% of the time that you shoot these things, you're going to be shooting a blank. And there is nothing you can do about that. You cannot retroactively lower your own critical hit chance, at least not that I'm aware of, to avoid doing that. So best case scenario is it's 12% if you don't have the Prime, 22% with the Prime, and you just don't add to that, and you keep your fingers crossed and hope you roll not crits. Venom, there you go, sting yourself. Yeah, so your critical hit chance goes down. You also don't shoot for the first round, and when your fight only goes 5 rounds, that's probably not the best thing. So, which Prime, Killer Angel? You're talking about, well, there's the Prime that adds 10% to your crit chance, which has been out for a while, which we all, talked about and wanted for years. And then there's the new Prime that I don't even know if they've released it yet. It might not be out yet. It's in the patch notes. There's probably an event for it next week. It probably hasn't been released yet. Usually the new Prime, whatever the Arc Prime is, they tend not to release right away on day one. So it's probably not out here yet. No, because usually there's a corresponding mission and stuff with it. So that one you probably can't buy today. You probably have to wait till next Tuesday to buy that one. Yang's going to try PMT on your Kelvin. PMT I was using earlier on testing on my account, on my free-to-play account, which is level 44. It worked okay. The problem is damage output, right? Because you're lowering their damage nicely, but you only have 5 rounds to kill them. So you do have to take that into consideration when you're trying to figure out how to kill these things quickly. Um, a lot of people are using a crew like this. They're taking max loot crew because the event that we have today is all triggering based off of loot received. Don't need hull breach or things like that. Tom Paris would be helpful to give me some mitigation so I last a little longer. I do want the doctor. We'll swap doctors. You don't want Odo because, again, he's taken up a spot here. Mariner could be helpful because you're getting a little more of a damage output, but, you know, depending on what level you are, you might be a little less there. Same thing with Tendi. Like, could be helpful for giving you more hull strength. Anything that boosts shields, like Rutherford, useless because these things also bypass your shields completely, which is why Strange New Worlds crew and Voyager crew are not good to use against these things. Because they have 2 abilities. Isn't that fun? They've got 2 brand new abilities. So let's just go here first and start with that. Loot crew with ISO damage, so pickle ain't bad idea. Yeah, the Monavine itself does some ISO damage, right? Is it built in that it does ISO? It only does it against Texas class hostiles. And then the research that you get for the Monavine, because people were talking about that earlier, and I think we were trying to talk about that a little bit when I was visiting with Lube. But the Monavine itself has the natural boost against the Dallas class hostiles. And then all of the research here is when you're fighting other players or when you're fighting FKR armadas and stuff like that, you get the boost. But there is nothing here that would help using the Monavine to get the isolytic boost against regular hostiles. There is a new favor for it, but that's another favor that you're going to have to spend additional credits on. Because there is a new favor. Where's it at? Thank you, Ace. Yeah, Monavine Barrage Amplifier increases base isolytic damage of the Monavine against all targets. That's right here. Now, this one does use regular tokens. Okay, so if you got a bunch of the regular ones, you could try taking the Monavine and learning this. Because it's taking the old tokens. I don't even know how much the old tokens I have. See, I hate when they add something new because that immediately means that they push the other ones off the board. And now I don't know how many Ex-borg. I got 36,000. Okay, so we got a bunch. Thank you, Carissa. Yep. Battleships could be better to use because of more hull. Possibly. It could work, possibly. So I've got some room to spare, so we could go ahead and pick up. So that just added 5%. But Tier 2 does require additional ones. So the Monavine itself is giving you a little bit of isolytic damage boost. But it's going to be something you're going to have to work up to. Most of these new favors do require the new currency, but not all of them. Some of the first levels they'll let you go ahead and get away with. And the assembly line ones are pretty good because they're the ones that are lowering your ship parts. So if you're trying to upgrade a ship, like if I'm trying to upgrade my Pylum still, or your Tribune, or your Valdor, whatever you're trying to do, grade 4 or 5. This will be something I'm obviously going to want to pick up very soon because I'm weeks away from building my Sanctus. So might as well just get that one while I'm sitting here right here looking at it, right? Just make my life a little easier. Plus, there's an event going on for it, right? And we also have the new emergency protocols. Now, these could not be worded any more complex if they, well, no, that's not true. I shouldn't say that because they could try and they could make it even more complicated. But essentially, these new in-battle repair things at the beginning of each round, if your ship, whatever ship type it is, because there's one for each of them, and there are ones for hostiles and there are ones for PvP, so there's two different repairs. Your hull health is below 35% at the start of the round. You're on the corresponding ship, whatever interceptor, and you have the matching thing on the target. So you're on an interceptor and you've given them hull breach and your hull health is below 35%. Then you are going to repair a percentage of the hull damage that you took the previous round. So basically, my health is below 35%. I'm on an interceptor. I gave my opponent hull breach. So at the start of round 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, I'm going to repair 3% of the hull damage that I took. So if I took 1,000,000 hull damage, I'm going to repair 3% of that, and it'll give me 30,000 life back. That's not very good. When you're taking 1,000,000 damage around, now maybe it's enough to squeeze out an extra hit or two. Eventually, when you have this thing max and you're getting 20% of that damage back, okay, it's a little bit better, and that could obviously prolong some fights and things. But at the early levels, it's not really going to notice a whole lot of a difference for a lot of people. Probably not going to notice a lot there. So our new hostiles right here, as you can see, they have a very low amount of cargo that they drop. These are the lowest level ones. These are the 40s. They are 11 million strength. They have a couple million hull health. And they have a lot of weapons, as we saw earlier. They also have two abilities. The first one says that they completely ignore players' shields. So all the damage they do just bypasses them completely. So anything you have that, especially like Janeway or Captain Strange New World's Pike, that redirect damage to the shields gets completely ignored. So that's why they don't work very well. The other thing here is your critical hit damage. It's reduced by 500% at the start of round 1, and it can stack. So at the start of round 2, it's now down 1,000%. So maybe in round 1, if you've got more than 500% bonus to critical hit damage somehow through primes or research or things like that, maybe some of your crits might get through and still do some damage in round 1. But by round 2, it's been reduced by 1,000%, and I don't think there's enough in the game to offset that. Unless you have the new critical hit floor. I'm doing it wrong. It's supposed to take 5 minutes. It will eventually take 5 minutes. This is day 1. You will never get brand new content completely cheap and free and easy and 5-minute quickie grinds on day 1. There's always a catch to it. You can buy your way there if you buy all of the efficiencies and some of the other, buy a big bundle of credits. How many credits do we get in a bundle? Ex-borg Favor Ultimate Pack. Ooh, it's the Ultimate Pack. It's got 12,000 in it, plus a bunch of rares and epics, which you'll probably need to level some of these up, because I'm sure even the ones that start off saying uncommons will possibly need rares and epic as you go further. It also gives you a big chunk of reputation, because I guarantee, much like the Bajoran favors, which this is kind of a copy-paste of, many of these things are going to be locked. You're going to level it up once and then be like, great, I want to level it up again. And it's going to be like, well, get to the next rep level, and you can. And 25,000 rep wouldn't even actually move me up. It would just get me closer. So even that's not going to get you there. You're going to have to make multiple purchases. Good thing there's an event running right now to give you Hammer shards for all those purchases they want you to make. Because you can go right here and get this pack right here that's got 12,000 credits and some of these uncommons in here, but no rep. I don't think any of these have rep in them either. Just got big chunks of credits, so you're still going to be pooched on the rep. Freebooters was 5 minutes on release. Yes, but freebooters didn't do anything on release. Like, you could kill freebooters in 5 minutes, but you didn't have any of the research yet, unless you bought all that. So you could go kill a couple of freebooters right away and be like, yep, I'm done. That was easy. I did my dailies. But until you actually went in and did the whole research here, until you actually went through the tree and got the swarm sweeps and got the Romulan Klingon Federation sweeps, it didn't do anything for you. This was what you either had to buy your way to, or it took you a couple weeks to work your way and get enough credits to maneuver through this tree to get these things unlocked. So this is, again, it is similar to that, and rightfully so, because they came out, the beginning of last year. So it's, again, just another way of recycling an older content. Well, I got 150 off that first kill. The rep pack was pulled, Lube says. It had enough to max the whole tree in it. Well, can't have that happen now, can we? Well, now I need 4.8 million, and I get 100 per scrap. So basically I need to get 480,000 scraps. 48,000? 48,000. I need 48,000 scraps at 100 points apiece. Well, clearly by killing hostiles, I'm going to have to go hit something bigger because I'm getting 150 a pull and I need 48,000. Maybe it is one thing where you just have to farm, but even that's kind of ridiculous. Because, what did I say, 48,000 divided by 150 per kill, it's only 320 kills. So if I wanted to stay here and kill 320 things, I could, but I'd probably want to harm others. I'd want to break something. We'll put it that way. I'd want to break something. Denver Stone took you 2 hours to farm it? Yeah. It's going to be rough the first couple of days. No doubt about it. Now, thankfully, they did make at least this first event. They were smart enough. This Xindi Hostile Hunt is actually a 2-day event. So, at least this part, they made reasonable. As far as what you need to do your pulls, that's a different topic. Now, obviously, trying to do a double pull here is a stretch goal, right? 240,000, probably not happen the first couple of weeks. There's just too much going on. But even to get the 95,000, I mean, we just looked at it, right? It was going to be 300 kills, and that was going to get me to 48,000, so it means I got to double that up. All right, maybe we can hit something a little bigger here. What do we got? We got 302. Let's hit a 42 and see what happens. If you can find a trader, yes, the traders drop a lot more loot. Also, if you happen to get a loot box, sometimes it can also have things in it too. It does not count for your event. I don't know why that froze. The event only counts what you get from killing stuff, the actual direct loot. But in terms of doing your pulls and things, you might get a box that might have some extra scraps in it. So that can also help with the grind a little bit. So let's see what we got here. I killed a 40. We got 147 loot. Fight went 1 round. Awesome. I killed it in 1 round. Didn't really have to worry. But you can see here, my first round of criticals, I got a lucky critical hit. 0 damage. Critical, 0 damage. So my 22% crit chance, that's built right into my ship. Critical damage, 22, critical chance, 22%. Is working against me now. Unless I want to buy my way out of the problem. That wasn't a problem until they created it as a problem. So no thank you. Godfather Tribble, thank you very much for the follow. Marky Spaceman and Bin Forger, also thank you for the follows earlier. They changed the amount. Yeah, it does say it scores 100 in the event description now. It is still a lot of grinding, that's for sure. Obviously, if you can find a sweet spot where you can hit and get reasonable amounts of loot. But if you are, again, for those players, my level 44 account is struggling right now. I can basically kill one thing per hull with like my Enterprise or my Talios, level 44, 11 million strength Talios. I can go kill one level 40 hostile, and I don't have enough hull health to kill a second one unless somebody else has already hit one and it's weakened, and then I can pick it off and I can get two per hull. Otherwise, I kill a level 40 and then I move down to the 34 system and then just farm there for a little bit until I die, or I go back, repair, and fly back again. This system is nothing but explorers. Well, that doesn't seem good. So, it's kind of a bad spot. Not really enjoying that so much. This was a 44. This was worth 400. Okay, so we're still doing okay here. We're up to 2 rounds now. Thankfully, see again, more criticals that are zeroed out. Thankfully, I delayed the weapon. Otherwise, right here is where it would hit me with the boomstick, and that would be all she wrote. But okay, we got through the 44s okay. Let's move up another system and try the 46s. Yeah, the repair bills on this, and I've heard people spending billions already or trillions of resources on this trying to find the right crew combinations and the right things. And, some people didn't know about the favor right away and just got blown up at the end of round 1, which was unfortunate. And other people didn't realize that the ship ability, what it did, because they didn't look at it. They just took their regular crew and went and hit stuff. And unfortunately got hammered because they had Hugh and were just, getting criticals. All right, so the 46s here are a little bit bigger here. We went from like 20 million up to, what did we go from 44s at 25 million to the 46s? We now jumped up to 40 million. This one definitely hurt a bit more. So it took about 15-20% of my health left. Fight did go 3 rounds. You spent like 100 billion in repairs? Zero Galactic saying the same thing? Yeah. I completely understand that frustration and the expense involved with that. And even still, I'm mitigating 70%, but as you can see, he shot me for 1.4 million. I mitigated 1 million of it. But shield health 0, so all of it goes straight through to hull. The 46s gave me 642. Okay, so we're making a little more progress here. So 642 when I need, what, 95,000? Jesus. Is that what we said? A box is 95,000? Yeah, 95,000. I've got 475 in my inventory from opening chests, plus 1,500 from right here. Yeah. This is ridiculous. Traders are a big boost. You almost have to just go around hunting traders, right? To try and actually get this done, but good luck, because I'm sure everybody else has got the same idea, and they only really spawn like once in a little bit here. E-Dub's wondering what crew I was using on my level 44 account. So I was using my Talios, my Defiant, my Augur, my Enterprise, all kind of basically using the same crew, which was Picard, Data, and 5 of 11, trying to maximize loot. I tried Tal. Obviously, the fight doesn't go long enough. Just wanted to prove that that was a thing. You don't get enough damage done in 5 rounds. Just, so that doesn't really work. Unless you're hitting something weak enough that you just kill it between the damage. I tried Pike Moreau, Talon. That seemed to do okay. Again, I'm limiting their damage, but I have to put out enough of my own, which was kind of a problem. So certain things, sometimes I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't get it done in 5 rounds, and I'd get the boomstick. If you can get the extra favor and push it up to 7 rounds, Pike Moreau Talon might be a little more usable. See? Because, see, look at that. That's just ridiculous. Just took almost half my life deft. And this should be an even fight, right? But because, again, nothing's getting blocked by shields. It's all hull. And that's only 1,000 per kill. So it would seem like what I would have to do, honestly, that's the 48s. Is realistically, I'd have to just farm 44s in order to get this done and get the event done. Pike Moreau Enterprise E data could be useful if your data is high enough. I'm talking like tier 4 or 5. If it's tier 1 through 3, probably not going to make enough of a difference. You might actually, now that I'm talking about this out loud, hang on a second. Depending on what ship you're using, I'm wondering if Picard might actually work better than Data. Well, it's going to be a tier thing, right? Yeah. So if your data's high enough, because mine's only tier 3 here, so he's giving a 20% boost. Whereas Picard would be a 5% boost each time I fire a weapon. So depending on what ship you have, the number of weapons you have, and then how it would stack, potentially by like round 2 or 3, you could be doing more damage from Isolated Cascade than Data would be. But again, it depends on the tier of your Data and the tier of your Picard and stuff like that. But yeah, they both do require multiple tier ups to really be beneficial with that. So what tier does Cath need to be? Cath has to be tier 4. So max Talon is 20%. Tier 4 Cath gets to 21%, making her just slightly better. If you max her about on her last ability, you go to 25%. Now, what I've also seen some people doing, and I've heard about people doing, is doing Pike as captain with Cath and Talon on the side. So you're doing a double damage reduction, which is what we're going to try here in just a second. And just go ahead and see how that works. So we're going to put my tier 4 Cath. So it's a 21% there. And we're going to do Pike. Come on. There's Pike. And then I need to jump to Talon. So by running, his boost is less, but you've got multiple officers that he's boosting, so you do still come out a little further ahead in terms of damage reduction. And let's fly back out here and we'll take a look at this again. Do I have a link to my Discord? Yes, should be ! Discord. Should pop it up. Reaper, Al, and Hurricane, also thank you for the follows earlier. Thank you, Lube. Yes, the other thing you can add too, you can pop some combat exos, right? Get some damage boosts. Anything that helps you kill these things faster means you're taking less damage, because they shoot a lot. You know, if I can, I don't even know what it would do, but let's just hypothetically speaking here. Let's go back and look at this fight. So this fight went 5 rounds against the 48, and it's hitting me for 600k hull health per shot, and every weapon fires twice, and it's got what, 5 of them? Yeah. And this last one seems to crit a lot. I don't know. This is just like a permanent critical weapon. 1, 2, 3, 4, critical. 1, 2, 3, 4. Crit. Yeah, I think the fifth weapon just criticals all the time. It's like a 100% crit chance. So this is anything you can do to make these rounds go a little faster. And if you can boost your base damage output. So I was hitting for about 1.7. Let's see what it is here when we get these guys in position. So let's start with a 42 and just see how this goes. Edub asks, exos that say adding to a certain type of ship damage. Yes, that's the ship that you're using, as Lube pointed out there in the chat. All right, so the 42, again for comparison, it was hitting me for 670,000 was its base damage. I was blocking 475 and about 190 was going through to my hull. Now, this was with my loot crew, and I got 243 loot and took a little bit of damage. Switching officers and doing it again, now with this, minus 20%, minus 21%, and you've got Pike boosting this right here. You see now they're hitting for base 119 to 120, and I'm blocking. So I got a lot less hull damage was coming through. Taking, even with the permanent critical hit weapon here, it only crit for about 200k, as opposed to the last time around when that weapon was critting for what, 3 million? 1 million. Oh, yeah, on these guys. Yeah, it was critting for 1 million, so significantly reduced the damage output, and we can actually just do the math here real quick. So let's look at the first gun. It did, we'll call it 673. Because I forget, there used to be a chart on this. I don't know if I still have it, but let's just say we went from we'll call it 120. About 18% of the damage went through, which means that I have successfully reduced their damage with this lineup by 82%. Which is pretty crazy, not having the Moreau boost. If you have, let me see if I can find, let me see, I don't know if I saved a copy of that. There used to be a handy little, cute little chart we used to have way back in the day for the difference between, there it is. I do still have it. Haha. So here's your difference between Kath versus Talon. Pike, Moreau, Talon, with Talon being tier 5, so she's a 20% reduction. Everything gets modified by Pike and Moreau. You end up reducing the damage by 74%. If you switch to Pike, Kath, and Talon, even at tier 1, you're still balancing it even at 74%. And as your Kath tiers up significantly here, you get a bigger reduction. Pike, Moreau, Kath at tier 5 is an 85% reduction here. So again, a significant improvement from Talon 74 up to an 85% reduction if your Kath is maxed. Mine's not. Mine's only tier 4. So yeah, getting a pretty nice reduction there. Yeah, we used to, I don't know who made that little graphic, but it's definitely a handy little thing to have. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to go move back up, and we're going to see just exactly where this crew tops out at. and then we'll just have to compare loot totals. Because obviously if I'm farming 42s, I'm getting 243 with the loot crew versus 136 without the loot crew. So I'm getting an extra 100 per kill, but if I'm taking a lot less damage, it might make it easier to just farm stuff. So again, kind of want to try and find that sweet spot in between. So you are welcome. What tier does Kath need to be to make? Yeah, it was tier 4, in case you missed the answer earlier. Talon maxes out at 20%. Kath at tier 4. Ooh. Kath at tier 4 is 21%, so just slightly better. But obviously then that small difference then gets multiplied because of the Pike Moreau boost. And if you can find a way to max Kath out, she gets to a 25% reduction. Still not as good as Chen, but she gets there. They couldn't make Kath as good as Chen, because if Kath was as good as Chen, and you had Talon, that Pike, Talon, Kath crew that we're running would actually be 100% damage reduction. They figured that out. They actually did playtest that and figured that out. That, oh crap, that's going to be 100% damage reduction. We can't do that. Okay. What about Picard Data Janeway? I have not tried that yet, Lester. That certainly would be more isolytic damage for sure. So now we're up here at the 44s, still taking very little damage. Fight ends in 3 rounds. Whereas last time we killed a 44. I took a decent chunk of damage and the fight only went 2 rounds. So I put out more damage because of the isolytic bonus from Picard and Data. So the fight went a little bit longer, but I took less damage because this time around I've got the reduction. And I got 399 last time as opposed to 228 this time. So again, a lot slower, but also a lot less damage. So I'm not going back and forth, and I'm not spending as much on repairs. Samuel, you got your favor maxed. Oh, look at you throwing that U in there. Spelling it the British Columbian way. Shaitan's been using Picard, Riker 5 with Paris Kim, Doctor below deck. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are a number of variations of crews that are going to be very dependent on the tiers of your officers. You know, if you have a tier 1 Kath, this crew isn't going to make sense and work. If you have a tier 2 Data, you know, the combinations you guys are suggesting aren't going to be as effective because they're just not good enough. Officer tiering is very much always a thing in this game, and it's really going to come into play here as well. Lube, thank you very much for hanging out for a few minutes. Have a wonderful night. All right, so last time again with our 46. We got 642, but we lost a significant chunk of hull health. Fight went 3 rounds, but I was being hit for 400k per round for hull damage. This time around, again, less cargo, but way less hull health. I'm only getting 70 through. So I am still getting some base isolytic damage here, just not quite as much. Can't even source most of what you don't have for officers. Well, thankfully they just put a brand new pack in the game for that too, didn't they? Which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Yes, the 35s, which are in the system that you can see without being screened, do not have any of the bonuses. So if you are struggling in this and you just want to engage in the loop, you can go kill 35s, but bear in mind they drop 2, and whatever it's going to cost you for this, you have to use max loot crew on this, right? Otherwise, you're going to be here forever. That's this literally is, for those, I'm going to date myself, but do any of you guys remember the South Park episode where they played World of Warcraft? I believe it's called Make Love, Not Warcraft. Classic episode, hilarious. They're getting trolled by some guy who, bought everything in the game, and he's kicking all their asses and won't let them do anything. So they go out into the forest so that they can level up in secret, and they just grind XP, or they're killing boars in the forest at 1 XP a piece, and they're like, dude, that's going to take like millions of boars. And they just sit there for days and weeks, and you see them slowly deteriorate and just get fatter and more acne and things because all they're eating is junk food while they're just grinding and grinding away until they eventually get strong enough that they feel like they can go challenge this guy again. That's kind of what you would have to do here, is just grind thousands of these things so you could have enough credits to do box pulls to then get the favors, so then you could then move up and fight something better. So sort of 1,000 truths, absolutely. That is absolutely right. It's one of the one of the episodes that just stands out into my mind of that show. I mean, which just realized is about to hit its 30th anniversary in the next couple of years here. It's like 20. It's over 25 years old at this point. Did I just die? See, I died now. And this is going to come back to that problem of not, even though I'm taking less damage, I'm not putting out as much damage. So I got a big chunk of it dead, but I hit my 5 round. Oh, see, that's just bad luck. Ooh, crit shot, just completely wasted. 3. Okay, so I started at 4, and then here's the go home weapon. Which, just in case it doesn't kill you the first time, it does fire 6 times. So just in case the first one isn't enough to kill you, they shoot you 5 more times for 100 billion damage. Just to really make sure you are dead. So the 46s went a lot easier. The 48s were problematic because I didn't put out enough damage. Now, one other thing that I do want to take a look at is with increases isolytic damage while on an interceptor and the opponent has hull breach, giving you an extra 7% isolytic damage. So it might still be beneficial to actually put Balana below deck just to trigger the hull breach, even though I'm not going to hit the criticals and I'm not going to get the critical damage bonus. I don't want the criticals, and I don't want the critical damage bonus, and it wouldn't do anything. The target having hull breach even though my Balana is only like tier 3, I think, right? Might boost my isolytic damage. So let's go back and let's try one more of these guys again, and let's see if it makes a difference. It's a 48. Okay. Loot would stop dropping because of the 1,500 per. Well, it's 2,000 now. They changed that, LoJax. It's up to 2,000, but you're right. You would stop getting loot after 2,000 kills per day. Bill Air, you went to Kaylor, died with your Pylum. What crew were you using? And actually, more importantly, did you still have, well, two things. Did you buy the favor? And did you have Hugh below decks? Buying the favor is the most important thing. If you guys haven't heard that before, you haven't seen that anywhere, the most important thing you can do, step one, is buy particle beam delay levels 1 and 2. Gotta buy these guys, otherwise you're dead. Step 2 is take off Hugh, because you do not want to hit criticals because of the hostile ability. Are those favors permanent? Yes, they are like the Bajoran favors. And we have other favors too. Oh, the Section 31 favors. Yeah, they're permanent. Yep. You don't have access to that yet? Well, you will eventually. And then, yes, they're just like research. They're just sourced differently. Larotka, you noticed your bigs tried to brute force it without looking into it too much? Yes, I heard that too from a number of players who were like, they just took their best ship, went out there and tried to, and then got blown up, and they're like, okay, what the hell? How did my, Sanctus or whatever just get blown up in round one? Like, this is stupid. And it's like, well, hang on a second. They're like, oh God, what do I have to buy to fix this? And it's like, well, you don't have to buy anything necessarily. You can get away with just doing a little bit here. You're going, yeah. All right, so E-Dub's using Voyager. Ouch, that's going to be pricey. Voyager has, if I'm not, unless you have the, even with the research though, I feel like the repair cost on Voyager is significantly higher. So that could get a little expensive. What's up, Hippo? Is Klingon good for when you're a new player? The factions are all pretty well balanced. The only thing I always suggest, I always tend to tell people to go Klingon or Romulan first, just because, well, it doesn't really matter. Actually, in the very beginning of the game, it really doesn't matter because you're not going to get into officer sourcing and that kind of stuff yet. Okay, so I died again, which is shocking considering I killed half of it last time. So again, the fight went 5 rounds. We're doing decent isolytic. Balana didn't go off, but there's 2 criticals again. 3, 4 criticals. Ugh. 5, 6. See, this is just bad RNG right here. 7. 8, 9. Jesus. 10. So, all right, let me get this straight. Balana Torres has a 30% success rate of applying hull breach. Doesn't go off once in 5 rounds. I have a 22% critical hit chance rate, and it goes off like 9 times. Scropley! All right. Now the other thing I'm going to do first off, we're going to go back and kill that 48. Now we're going to add a combat exo, and just to see how much difference it does. I'm using an interceptor, so I'm going to add my best one. It's 350% interceptor damage. Why did it not look like it actually triggered? Okay, there we go. So we're going to use that one and see if it makes any type of difference. That's the Scopely math for you? Absolutely. Absolutely. Hi, Bearded Bumpkin. I have replaced Rev. I am his better-looking twin brother, Dev, and I am here to continue educating you all about the game. Dev Bruce, there you go. I do not do chicken dances. Belair's asking, how do you get the particle beam delay? That's in the new store. It's in the Ex-borg store. You use your existing Ex-borg credits to get the first 2 levels of this particle weapon beam delay, which then means you don't die at the end of round 1. It means you now die at the end of round 5 if you haven't killed it yet by then. And once you do the holodeck mission, which I already forget the name of, once you do a holodeck mission, United again, part 1, you get 1,000 credits, and then once you do your first turn-in, that gives you another 100 or 200 credits, which is now enough to get that favor extended. So you can then push it out even further, get the 3rd and final level, and that will mean now that you will not die until the end of round 7, and that should give you a little bit more room to maneuver and hopefully not have so many unfortunate RNG deaths because of your critical hit chance. Hippo, what's my best ship? Currently, it's my 134 million Vorcha. Although my Talios is about the same strength. This is just a tier 4. My Talios is tier 11, and it is approximately the same strength, 133 million. Speaking of which, I need Pike, Uhura. We'll just take Una because I don't care. I'll have to go do that one in a minute too. And again, I could try and use a bigger ship to do this, but first off, I want to find the one that's already like 3/4 dead before it goes away. Now, there's also a strategy if you're in a crowded system too. You just wait for people to blow up, and then you just go kill their damaged one. Its shields will be lower, and its hull health will be lower, so you'll have a greater chance of success. I do get the loot bonus on the pylon, which is kind of why I've been using it. Plus, it's also cheaper to repair. It has more crit chance. Oh, that would be even worse. All right, so, well, I died, but let's just see while we fly back here what the damage output difference here was. So we went from using the exo comp. I went from last time I was doing about 2 million. So now I'm up to about 2.2 million, but again, 22% chance to crit happens 3 times in the first round. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 shots. 3 out of 7 shots. It's a little higher than 22% there. There's a fourth one. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Come on. 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. 13 crits. Well, that's just exhausting. So realistically, what I would just do is I would go down to the 46s and I would just grind it out here. Or I'd go down to the 44s and I would use the loot crew. Now, somebody did suggest earlier one other crew that we'll throw out here. And that involves Janeway, Picard, and Data. I think that's what we were doing here. Picard, Data, Janeway is what they were suggesting. So let's go ahead and throw that on. And we'll go give that a shot against like a 46 or something. Yeah, I mean, if you get loot boxes, you do get a nice little bonus for sure. Having Fleet Commander Kirk. Now, that's another thing that people need to be aware of here. So, if you are using an Explorer, Kirk has an ability. One of his abilities. Is it this one? That boosts critical damage against hostiles. Kirk has an ability that boosts his critical hit chance, doesn't it? If you have... Yeah. While your ships have morale, they gain critical damage. That's not it. It's more crit damage. I thought he had something that boosted... Maybe it's down here, and it's too high. Yeah, so it's a level 50 ability. So if you're one of those players who happens to get to this point and you've got a command center level 50 and you have this ability for Kirk, keep in mind, take him off there because he's boosting your critical hit chance. Up to as high as an additional 10% more. Gone! Yeah. So something else to keep in mind there. I don't know if any other fleet commanders have an ability like that as well. I just remember people talking about, oh yeah, don't forget about Kirk's critical hit boost. I was like, oh yeah, yep. Omicron, I should use Picard Data 5 on the 40s. We were using Picard Data 5 earlier, and I was killing 44s pretty reasonable with the Pylum. So that will be... No, you do not want to crit on these guys. Sloan has an ISO damage boost. Well, I guess if you bought Sloan last month, you're in a great spot now. Well, I bet he's probably for sale, too. You could probably buy or at least get more of the credits you need to get Sloan. Don't forget, we got more wave defense stuff coming up soon. They just keep creating problems so they can sell the solutions, and it's getting a little old. Well, let's not face it. It's been getting old for a while now. But Sloan has an ability that boosts ISO crit damage. Well, that could certainly come in handy, as would boosting your artifacts and stuff as well. I'm going to guess it's here somewhere in Tactician, right? More piercing stats. Isolytic damage for all ships. Not much, but, I mean, you can get an extra 10% out of it, so... And it's very early on in the tree, too, so... That's pretty good. Carissa, you keep saying all these people are still running Hugh. Well, if you like them, you could tell them not to do that. Or you could just let them keep blowing themselves up and wasting all their titanium. And XO1 coming out with a boost to the... A lot of people have been speculating that that's going to be the case, right? All right, so let's see what we did here. So this last time we killed a 46, we used Picard data 5 of 11. We got 642 loot. We lost a nice big chunk of health here, about 20%, we'll say. Actually, if I slow that down. Yeah, I lost about 10 million hull health, which was about 25% of what I had left. This time around, with swapping Janeway in, I still lose almost the same amount of hull health. I still lose about 10 million hull health, which is pretty sizable. Fight goes 3 rounds. I'm getting more isolytic damage, but of course, you know, I'm going to be RNG dependent on whether or not you get crits or not. And I only got 500 loot off of one of them. So the short version is they've designed a new maze that's designed to punish everybody who bought everything for the last 5 years. And your only solution, your easiest solution out of it, if you don't have the patience to work through it, is to buy the new stuff to then counteract the new puzzle, which is nothing new in this game. It's what we deal with all the time. So and maybe they bought the Prime. Well, the Prime isn't for sale yet. They could have bought at least the faction. All that does, though, is just basically make it a wash. If you've bought enough of the floor, wherever it is, critical damage floor, if you bought enough credits and you got this tiered up a little bit, or all the way, so instead of your crits doing 0, your crits would be the same as a normal hit. In which case, then, having Hue doesn't hurt you. It also doesn't help you because there's no point to it. The new Prime is not available for sale yet. When it is, then it'll double up nicely for you. Where's that 48? That's the other problem, too. Sometimes it takes so long to fly back. By the time you get back here, probably should have just brought my disco out here to make my life easier. But I can't see this being successful, but all right, whatever. Let's go do it. Don't hull breach still make crits worthwhile? No, Napalm. As Pseudo points out in the chat, if your crit damage is 0, having hull breach multiply that crit damage still results in it being 0. The only thing hull breach would do for you is if you were on an interceptor and you had artifacts and things that triggered and did additional damage for the target having hull breach, like some of the isolytic effects do. That would still factor into things. Yeah, I'm taking way too much damage here. Fight's going 4 rounds. I get 800 credits off it. It's just not worth it. So realistically, I would take a full loot crew and I would just go grind 44s. That's the answer for now, as it seems to be. If you have the favor, well then if you have the favor, it would certainly be helpful, yes. Sorry, I misunderstood the question. Could the Forbidden Tech? Yes, there's also Forbidden Tech bin Forger as well that could come into play here and have an impact as well. There are a number of different Forbidden Techs that you could use that could also boost your damage output, whether you've got the Warhead. I mean, right there's an extra 950% damage against hostiles. If I wanted to use my Talios for that aspect, that could be, or swap this to a different ship because I've got enough currency to move it around if I wanted to. That could be better. Some of the other ones here, depending on if you've bought them, That's an Armada. These are all Armada boosts. Piercing and things like that. If you had Agamus and had it leveled up enough, the crit damage wouldn't help, but the isolytic damage boost would. And then obviously there's some other ones here. Depending on what type of ship you're on. Some of the rare ones also give you more hull health and things, so you could potentially get more kills in per trip. So now that's also true, Drywit. Obviously, you're getting less loot per kill, but if you're able to kill more things, you increase the chance of you getting a chest to drop. Not all chests drop credits though, so keep that in mind as well. It's not a guarantee like some of the other loot drops and things like that. Your chests could have repair speed ups. It could have, which is just ironic, right? Like, hey, you're gonna die a lot. You're gonna need these repair speed ups. Aren't we so nice? But they don't drop Kira blueprints. Well, there you go. Get silver linings, right? Always look on the bright side. So, and if you don't have a 46 rare, ship to get the loot bonus. Obviously, you're gonna have to make do with whatever you can. But yeah, you're gonna be hitting 40s as much as possible, or you're just gonna go grind 34s if you even care about finishing the event, or you just want to try and get that loot box.